All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Wow, I'm in Food Plot Chronicles mode. I was just editing Food Plot Chronicles, and now I have to change the seat that I'm sitting on because I don't like the noises this one is making. Tio, that's better. Whew. Woo. That was a rough start. We had a camera malfunction. My seat was making noises. But we're back. We are here. We are good to gizzo. Welcome back to another episode of Goose Chasing. It is just me today, ladies and gentlemen. Dino is on a photo shoot with Rocky up at Camp Cutlet. He always gets to do all the cool stuff, you know? Living up around Camp Cutlet, living in Ohio, a couple hours away from Camp Cuddy. He always gets to do the cool stuff. But him and cousin Davey are doing a little photo shoot with Rocky the next couple days. And speaking of Rocky, we will get back to that because we just had a Food Plot Chronicles episode that launched last week. We've got another one, episode 2, launching this week. But first, I got to send a shout out. My sister and her husband, Tom, just had their first child. It's pretty incredible. It's the first of the next generation of our family. So I am officially an uncle. My parents are officially grandparents. Dino's officially an uncle as well. And my grandparents, which I'm lucky, knock on wood, that I have all 4 grandparents still, are all now great-grandparents, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, my baby sister extended the family by 1. Little Brooklyn was born today, probably about an hour ago. 6 pounds, 14 ounces. And she is a beautiful, beautiful little girl. Healthy. Mama's healthy. Dad's doing well. So that's good stuff. Congratulations, Arynne and Tom. I am extremely happy for both of you guys. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone right now, just looking at more pictures and stuff. There's Arynne with the little one. For all you YouTube watchers out there, you can see it on screen. And then Arynne and Tom there shortly after she had the baby. Arynne is a frequent listener to Goose Chase, and she gets on my ass when the Goose Chasing episodes are not loaded early enough on Wednesday morning so that she can listen on her way to work, because basically her commute to work and from work takes up a whole podcast. So she can get it in one day if I have the damn thing loaded by around 7:30 Eastern time on Wednesday. And there's been a handful of Wednesdays that hasn't happened, and those Wednesdays she's on my ass. Where's the podcast? Are you guys launching one today? What's going on? But that's pretty cool. I don't know. Her support means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Dean. And her chiming in on getting the podcast up in time so that she can listen to it is makes me feel good. So that's cool stuff. And now she can listen to it with her little daughter and my little niece, Brooklyn. So happy for you guys. Congratulations. Sending out a big old Goose Chasing congratulations to Tom and Arynne, and one of the newest human beings on this earth currently, Brooklyn Kelly. That's good stuff. Now, what else do we have in store for today? Been shooting my bow quite a bit. It's time. Time to get out there and start shooting if you haven't already. I mean, our season starts at the end of August, going up to North Dakota again. But most people's season probably starts more towards the end of September, early October. So you got another month or so. But even still, it's good to get out the bow, get out your arrows, check your equipment right now, and just try to be on it or ahead of the game a little bit more. I know local archery shops are going to get packed once the end of the summer comes around. You may have lines to wait in. You may have to wait to get arrows cut. Whatever the case may be, getting a new string on your bow. You want to go through and check it all, especially if you don't shoot your bow all year long. You want to check your equipment because if it can fail, it may fail, and it likely will fail in the most unopportune moment of your season. So get that stuff checked out right now, even if you're not shooting every day. You know, it's not like you got to pull that bow out and shoot it every single day, but I don't know, try and fire a couple arrows once a week, a couple times a week. I'll oftentimes, if I can shoot one arrow a day, I'm good. And so I don't mean that literally like I only shoot one arrow a day, but if I run into a scenario where I've got a lot going on that day, don't get to my shooting, and it's late at night, whatever, whip the bow out and release an arrow. One arrow, downrange, let it rip, see it, feel it, and go on to the next day. That's just a little piece of advice. I mean, you don't have to be Cam Hanes, you know, running 14 miles, lifting, and then shooting probably 100 arrows per day. But you can stay consistent with your efforts and keep your archery skills in tune, especially this time of year as we're leading up into hunting season. You owe it to yourself for how much time you put in the fall. You owe it to the animal that you are pursuing to do your best to make it a clean and ethical harvest. And you owe it to your wife. Because if you miss that sucker, you may not be able to go back out and get another one. You may not be able to create another opportunity. She may say, you missed him at 14 yards. Are you kidding me? You ain't going hunting again. You suck. No, but I mean, I love shooting so much. I could shoot my bow all day, every day. The release of the arrow, every release is different. Every shot is different, even if you're shooting at the same target, even if you're shooting at the same distance. The wind's a little different. Shadows may be a little different, whatever. Every arrow release is its own. It's like a snowflake, but not the snowflake kind of snowflake, like just a snowflake that's just different. Every one of them is different. Every scenario in the woods is different. Every opportunity at a buck or a doe or a elk or a mule deer or an antelope or whatever the hell you are hunting, every scenario that you will have in your life is different. So as many shots as you can take, you're only upping your odds. You're only making it, making that muscle memory more intact. You're only making that the psyche of the release of that shot more intact. And in turn, in that moment of truth, you will be better. I can promise you, because archery, hunting is this, but archery especially is all about confidence. Confidence in yourself, confidence in your equipment, and there's only one way to have that full confidence, and that is to shoot your bow more, to shoot more, to practice more, to go through the repetitions so many times that you are confident, because once that moment of truth comes around, all hell breaks loose. You're under a high stress, high anticipated, high energy environment. And oftentimes, especially in November or late October or November, when the rut is there, you are going from literally 0 to over 100. You are it's probably one of the only like sports or activities that you literally go from like sedimentary, like very still, heart low beats per minute, energy low, probably cold, so you're not moving that much to begin with, to a complete and utter heightened of emotion, heightened of energy, heightened of everything in your body churning to like a completely different level. And you go into that mode at the literally flip of a switch. So it's already difficult to control those emotions, to control that feedback that you're getting from your mind and your body in that moment. But if you're not confident in your equipment in that moment, when your body goes from 0 to over 100, you really don't stand much of a chance in that moment in performing to the best of your ability. You just don't. So my advice to you would be get out there, dust them sticks off a little bit, and send a couple arrows downrange. The more you can shoot, the better you will feel, the more confident that you will be, the better that you will ultimately perform in that moment of truth. It is what it is. I can promise you that. It's a simple math equation, people. More time doing something allows you to be more confident doing that same thing. So, spend some time shooting your bow. You're going to be more confident in the moment of truth. That's probably what separates most people from killing big bucks consistently, or just killing their game of choice consistently, to the ones that go out maybe just as much and don't, is being able to control yourself in that moment. It's a state of emotion, it's a state of mentals, it's a state of even physical being that you can't describe unless you put yourself in that very moment. So, shoot your bow. It's a math equation. It makes sense. Let it rip. Downrange. You'll feel good. And honestly, if you have the opportunity, shoot farther distance than you're going to be shooting when you're in the woods. I know you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but when you start shooting out to 50 and 60 and 70, 80 yards, even more than that, up to 100 yards, and you bring the target back into 30, 40, then 20 literally is like a putt, an easy putt, a tap-in birdie. Your confidence goes from a little to a lot in those short ranges when you practice longer ranges. And I know we all don't have the ability to just sling arrows that far, because you have to have the right spot. It's got to be safe, whatever. But if you can, that's probably one of the things that has helped me the most over the last couple years. Like, I'll go to the range now, and my first shot is at 40 yards. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because I do that for myself, because I like to train my mind to all of a sudden be in it. You got a 40-yard shot right here, right now. Make the shot. Pretty simple. If you do the same practice routine every single time, your body gets used to it. Now you start at 20. You take whatever, 6, 8, 10 shots at 20. Boom, 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 boom. You're knocking the center out of the target. You go to 30, do the same thing. Bing, bang, boom. Maybe at The last couple rounds at 30, you start getting a little wobbly. Then you go to 40, and now all of a sudden, you're 4, 5, 6 rounds into your shooting, and you're starting to get a little tired. Now your shooting at 40 is kind of, whatever. It's just whatever. And then you go to 50 and 60 and so on, where I think it's important to just change it up every once in a while. Go to the range or go into your backyard and put the target at 50 yards. First 3 shots, that's what you're doing. 50 yards, right out the box. Let it rip. Don't be scared. If you fuck up, oh no. Oh, big deal. It's a freaking target. You hit the bottom of it. You slung it over the back of it. Who cares? You're on target. You learned a little something when you released that arrow. If you didn't, then you didn't have your eyes open. You were shooting with your eyes closed. But you learned a little something when you shot that arrow, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying that shot needs to be perfect when you take your bow out of the case and you dust that arrow off and you send it down range to 50 yards or 60 yards, that first arrow. I'm not saying it's got to be perfect. But I bet you one thing, the third one's going to be pretty damn good, and that's going to zero you in a little bit more. Now, the next time you come out to the range, or maybe 2 or 3 times from then, you come out to the range, you put the target at 60 yards, first shot, and your first shot's a little low, but it's a hell of a lot better than the first one you took 3 days ago. And now all of a sudden the second shot's right in there, and you're just shortening the window. You're shortening the window of pulling that bow out of the case or pulling that bow off your bow hanger in the tree, and you got your opportunity at 50 yards right now. Are you going to make it or are you not? Pretty simple. It's black and white. But yeah, I've been shooting my bow and I've been loving it. I just got the new Phase 4. I'm setting it up here soon. So I'm going to I'll have a whole video on my setup, my arrow setup, my sight, my rest, everything. Everything that I use, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you what I use, everything. And I'm not telling you to tell you that you need to use it. I'm just telling you what I use. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, fuck it. My brother-in-law, Tom, new dad, and he's gotten into hunting the last year or so. And last year, probably mid-October, whatever, he was asking Dean and I what bow he should get, whatever. We just, we obviously showed him our Matthews, spoke highly of them, but our suggestion to him was go to the bow shop and shoot it. Shoot all of them. Shoot all the bows, or 5 to 6 of them, whatever. But shoot them and see what one feels best. And he ended up with an Elite in his hands. God bless. He's bow hunting. God bless. Am I pissed about him not shooting a Matthews? Hell no. It's what he likes. It's what he's comfortable with. He's comfortable with that bow. Now he's going to go out more. He's going to spend more time shooting it. He's going to be more involved because he's comfortable with his piece of equipment. That's all that matters. That's the number one thing that matters, because at the end of the day, we're here to try and enhance and promote the sport of hunting so that more people get involved. That's it. He likes Elite. He's got a new bow. He's shooting it. He's loving it. He's doing good. God bless. Any Hoosers, Food Plot Cronies episode 1 is now live on our YouTube channel. It's also live on our Facebook page. We want to send a shout out to Rocky Boots for another year of partnering with us on Food Plot Cronies. We actually just bought some land adjacent to the Camp Cutlet property up in New York, and it's about 30 acres, maybe a little over 30 acres, but it provides an opportunity for gotta be 10 to 12 more tillable acres, maybe more than that, maybe closer to 15 tillable acres. And that's always good because we're always looking for tillable ground up in New York, or we're always looking to try and create more tillable ground to try and create more food. And the first episode of Food Plot Cronies is solely focused on that, just basically talking about the food that we're going to be putting in there, the tactics that we're going to be utilizing in order to get this field plantable. Now, different from this field or from some of our other fields, this specific field that we're planting in corn this year has not never been turned, but it has not been worked. The ground has not been turned. It has not been plowed, disked, tilled, or any of that in at least the last 30 years. I mean, Dean and I were both trying to remember. We don't remember a time when that was any sort of crop or anything other than a hayfield. So it gets hayed every year, but beyond that, it has not gotten tilled or worked or anything at all. So that can be difficult when you are cultivating new ground that hasn't been worked in a long time or ever. So Dino is borrowing a plow from the neighbor. He's going to be plowing and disking it. Basically what plowing is we got a 2-bottom plow. It takes the dirt probably, 8 to 10 inches under the sod, and it flips it. So it basically flips the grass over onto its back, and the dirt is now on top. But you have to literally do that 2 rows at a time for the whole field, if you can imagine. And once again, you can see this all on Food Plot Chronicles from last week. But it's a long process. But ultimately what that does is gives you dirt on top of the soil. It also allows you to still maintain whatever nutrients are in the soil as well. So obviously this field not being worked before, we're going to have to heavily fertilize it. We already put some lime, a lime substitute down as well. And now that the ground is flipped, or now that the ground is plowed, Dean went over it and tilled it all. It's ready for planting. So the planting episode will be coming up this Friday, once again on our YouTube channel on Food Plot Chronicles. So exciting stuff. We're going to be planting some new food plots in some of our fields, just kind of doing a little crop rotation. And this specific field that I'm talking about right now on the new ground is going to be all corn. So that'll be interesting to monitor and see how that goes as well. But it should allow for some more destination food, which is going to be fantabulous come late season. Fantastical. Fantastical. Oh, what the hell else? What the hell else? Oh, man, we got North Dakota around the corner. We are literally a little over 2 months away. It's hard to believe. Actually, what's today? The 26th? Yeah, we are just about 2 months away from leaving for North Dakota. One of my favorite trips of the year. It's been an absolute blessing, and it's opened doors for us that I never thought were possible. It's gotten us experiences that I've always just, dreamed about, and we're on our 11th year going out there. I think we've shot 10 bucks out there already. We've had a couple blank years. The first 2 years were blank years, and we had one blank year in the middle there, maybe year 8, or maybe it was year 9. But we've also killed multiple bucks in the same year 3 different times, or maybe 4 different times. Dean got one up there last year. I've gotten one just myself a couple years. But it's a pretty magical place, and it's even cooler to be able to kind of be out in front of a lot of, I I feel like a lot of the hunting community. So for us putting out content, everybody's getting jacked up that time of year to be in the woods, and the bucks are fully grown. They're in velvet. They're coming out of velvet. And it's just a really cool time of year to be in the woods and kind of be promoting the sport of bow hunting while everybody is so emphatic about it, and not everybody is able to partake. So you have a lot more eyeballs on you at that time of year, I feel like. And man, I don't know. I don't know what it is about the land up there, about the people, about the experience, or maybe it's just a combination of everything that we've gone through. We're extremely grateful to be connected with a family up there now that we call our own family, and we've created more siblings within their family and more bow hunters, and just, hunting stories and just memories with them in general. And so grateful for the opportunity to go up there. So grateful for just how giving they are for us. And we started hunting on a 800-acre piece up there, and now we have a couple thousand acres, at our fingertips, and to kind of explore and chase whitetails on year to year. And it's just, I don't know. I cannot say thank you enough to the Schmidt family. I cannot say thank you enough to them, and the town that we stay in up there, the land that has given us so much up there. And it's really changed me as a hunter. It's kind of broadened my outlook, I guess. It's made me far more curious as a hunter, because we grew up hunting Western New York. We're from Ohio, but we grew up hunting Western New York. We didn't really even start hunting Ohio until I was in high school, I think, which is kind of crazy to even think about. We lived in Ohio. It's one of the best big buck states in the country, and we didn't even really pay attention to it until we were in high school. But now when we go up there, it's just a breath of fresh air. It's kind of like a deep breath, like, oh man, the season is finally here. It's also a breath of fresh air because you are just in such an open, vast part of the country that is hard to appreciate unless you actually experience it. It really is. It's hard to appreciate the land up there, the people that put so much time and effort into the land, the resources that come from that part of the country that we all take for granted. It's man, I wish everybody could experience it. I wish everybody could know how it makes me actually feel. But at the same time, that's why we document what we do. That's why we try and bring everybody along with us, because you can experience it. You can experience it with us. I remember the first year we went up there, I met this guy at a bar down here in Nashville, and one thing led to another. We were talking about what we were passionate about, what he did, what I did, and obviously my side of the conversation was mostly about bow hunting. But at the end of the conversation, he said, "You should come up and soybean hunt. You should come up and bow hunt my soybean farm in North Dakota." And I'm like, man, North Dakota is just not even a state that I would have ever thought about even hunting. But then I started looking into dates of the season, and I saw that the season opened far earlier than the seasons that we hunt in Ohio and New York. And I just started doing some research and this and that. And actually, at the time that we first were going up there, the research that I was doing was basically saying that there was not many deer up there anymore, that the harsh winters in years past and whatever had kind of wiped out the deer and the deer population pretty good, and there was not many deer up there anymore. And when we first went up there that first year, I mean, we could have told you the same thing, because we felt like we were complete rookie, never hunted before in our lives, and it was so weird. We spent more time driving around glassing, looking for anything to resemble a deer, period, let alone a deer in itself. And I think it was like the third or fourth day we finally got our eyes on some animals, and we spotted what looked to be this nice 10-point, and Dean and I were up on one of the few hills that are in North Dakota, and we saw this thing. I mean, it had to be at least a quarter mile away, if not more, down. There was a big island of trees in the middle of just a sea of beans. I mean, there was beans as far as you could see all around, and there was this little island of trees right in the middle of it. And this buck came out of there. It was like 2:30 in the afternoon. We were just walking around scouting, trying to find, like I said, trying to find something that resembled a deer. And we spotted this thing. Well, we're glassing this thing for a while. He comes out into the beans. He's feeding around, whatever, and then he goes back in. And he goes back in to the same little island patch of woods. Well, Dean and I snuck down one tree row, went way down, had to be another quarter mile, not in the opposite direction, but in an adjacent direction, and then had to like kind of loop all the way around. There was another tree row that was closer to this island patch of woods that we could get a better look at and just kind of see more of the terrain and what we needed to do to even get to this little island patch of woods. Because from our standpoint, it just didn't look, the little island patch of woods didn't look very, very big. Maybe a half a dozen trees in this thing, or maybe a little bit more, but it didn't look very big. Well, when we got down and around, we kind of got a vantage point, and we were a lot closer. We're a couple hundred yards. We're probably 300 yards from this island patch of woods, maybe a little bit farther, but nonetheless, it felt like a lot closer. We felt like we were sitting in the living room of this buck's area at that point. And so we're sitting there and we're glassing, we're kind of looking, and at this point it's later in the evening. Sun's kind of going down a little bit, and he comes back out and he's feeding in the beans, and we watch them feed all the way around, and he kind of banana curled around the outside of this little island patch of woods. But there really wasn't much. There wasn't a far distance this deer would have had to go a far distance to get in another like patch of cover. And so we sit there, we watch this deer for the evening, and now like we think we're in the money. You know, we're like high-fiving, we got him, we figured him out, we know where he's at, he's in this island patch of woods, he can't get out of there, we got this sucker. So the next day, afternoon comes around, we glassed in the morning, didn't see him, afternoon comes around, and we get back into we actually made a little man-made blind right up against a couple trees, but in this tree row, it was perfect. And so we're sitting there, and it's getting later and later in the evening, and we got probably 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half until sunset. And at that point, you know, Dean and I were putting in long hours most of the day because we just didn't know what else to do. So we hadn't seen anything yet. And we're watching this island patch of woods. Nothing's coming out. It is blazing hot. 85, could be pushing 90 degrees. We're in the nice shaded area behind the trees of this little tree row. So it's comfortable. And easily the deer could have come out of that patch and he could have fed, to our tree row, and he could have just, worked his way up and down the tree row, staying closer to cover, but still being in the mix because the beans were right there and he could be eaten while he's, cruising around, whatever. So that's kind of what our original plan was, just sit it out and see what happens, see what he does for that evening. Well, I start getting a little antsy. So I'm like, dude, we can see there's like a little, there's kind of like a little saddle that goes through the beans. And what we didn't know was when it rains, this is probably a spot where the water comes out of the slough, because what we also didn't know was that little patch of trees, the little island patch of trees, was also water. Like it was a little lake slough right in there. And the trees were just kind of around the outside. So, the water comes out of that slough and it goes and it's trying to make its way to the next slough. And this little cut in the beans was kind of perfect to stalk, essentially. So I'm like looking at this thing and I'm kind of glassing. I'm like, dude, Dean, we could get there. We could get to we could get right to the point, kind of almost right where this buck came out of. We could get within 50, 60 yards of that point right there. And we could just sit there in the beans. And then when he comes out, we're in bow range. Duh. So Dean's like, I'm more of an aggressor. Dean's more of like the passive, timid, he's chilling. He's just good sitting back and observing for another day and seeing what happens. And if something happens, great. And if not, whatever. That's fine too. Where I'm like, this buck was in here yesterday. There's no way he can be anywhere else. I mean, it's land as far as the eye can see. There's no way he could be anywhere else but this little patch of trees right here. We got to get over there, and we got to wait for him because he's coming out. So after a lot of bickering and bantering back and forth, I finally convinced Dean that we're going across this fucking bean field, and we're getting up near that island, and we're going to sit in there for the rest of the evening. And we're going to wait for this sucker to come out. And when he does, we're going to let one fly right in his direction. And praise God, we connect. Well, we packed up some of our stuff. We left some of our stuff in our little man-made blind. And we start making our way down the tree row, because we kind of had to go down the tree row. There was a closer entrance to this little ditch that we were going to get in. So we do that, and now just by the little terrain hills in the field, you can't even see the island patch of woods. So we could walk through the first part of the ditch. Okay, so we're kind of like hunched down, walking through. And I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Like the bottom of this ditch is all dirt. Very quiet walking. All the while now we're in the blazing sun. Like we are in the sunlight, and it is beaming. So we get down in there, and we're a couple hundred yards from the patch of woods, the little island patch of woods. Now you could see it. So we now have to start crawling. Well, as now we're crawling, so we're closer to the ground, and now the wind, there was a light breeze, but where we were down in this ditch, there ain't nothing going on. It is still hot air, and we are getting beat on by the sun. And as we get closer to the ground, we're crawling, the mosquitoes start to attack. And let me tell you something. If you've ever been in a high mosquito-infested area, you know what I'm saying. When that is one of the worst experiences you could ever put anybody through in their life. Getting bit by multiple, probably hundreds of mosquitoes at one time is something that I never want to experience ever again. But we were in it. So we get to the spot of interest. We are getting annihilated by bugs. Mind you, Dean and I have our storm hoodies on from Rocky. We've got the face mask up over our face, over our nose. We've got the hood over our head. We've got our hats on. The only thing you can see is our eyes, but we only have this thin layer on. So these mosquitoes are biting us through our shirts. And now we're sitting there. Dean's already furious because he's like, that was a stupid idea to begin with. And now we're getting fucking annihilated by mosquitoes. This is even worse. We sit there and we sit there and we sit there. And now the sun's going down. So the mosquitoes are coming out in full force even more. And they're biting us. And we're not seeing any deer. And the sun's going down. And skeeters are still biting us. And we're still not seeing any deer. And it's getting quieter. And the sun's going down. And more skeeters are biting us. And we also still have to crawl back a couple 100 yards and hike back to our stuff. And then we got a hell of a hike back to the truck. So the sun sets on that day, and it gets dark. And unfortunately, we didn't see shit. It was probably a horrible idea to begin with. But to make matters even worse, we crawl back through the mosquito-infested river of mosquitoes, and we get to the point where we can actually get up and walk a little bit. We get back to the tree row. We're creeping down the tree row, and we literally step over the little bushes that we put in front of our little man-made blind, and literally 15 yards behind our little man-made blind in the beans, we hear this snort that sounded like a friggin' freight train blowing the doors off of another freight train. It was so loud. It was right there. It was so freaking loud. You know the snorts when, like, you could tell when a doe snorts and she's just like and she's getting her bullshit on, like it's the mother hen kind of thing. Like she's just trying to protect. This deer was trying to let everything in the south central part of North Dakota know that humans were hunting and that they were here. This deer snorted so loud, I think it blew my hat off. Dean fell backwards. We picked up our stuff. We're gathering our stuff. You could, as this thing goes bounding through the beans, you could feel the ground shaking. You could feel it shaking. And I threw the binoculars up because now he's cresting this hill about 80 to 100 yards out. And he's right in like the last little bit of lit up skyline that you could see. And he crests this hill, and I throw the binoculars up, and I just see this massive, I mean, he was inches out past both ears, massively wide, massively heavy, massive bodied North Dakota buck that was literally standing 15 yards behind the man-made blind that we had been sitting in most of the day, that I convinced Dean to get out of to crawl through the Annihilation bean mosquito trail to sit getting annihilated by mosquitoes for 2 hours while we didn't see jack shit, and only to crawl all the way back out, get to the spot that we were sitting in a majority of the day, hear one of the loudest snorts that I've ever heard in my life, and literally get kicked in the nuts because that was a massive, massive, massive buck. I'm not going to tell you we could have killed him. I don't know what would have happened, but I could tell you one thing. We would have seen him, and it would have been a hell of a lot better than not seeing jack shit, getting annihilated by mosquitoes, having a brother that wants to beat your ass because you drugged him in there. I mean, you want to talk about demoralizing and deflating. That was the kick in the nuts of all kick in the nuts. It was brutal. I couldn't believe my eyes. When I threw those binoculars up, I'm like, ah. Dean is going to be pissed at me. He was already pissed at me. And then he was really pissed at me. Oh. And then for the rest of the trip, we really didn't see much. We had some trail camera pictures of deer and stuff like that, but we really didn't see much. And after that trip, it was like we were kind of scratching our heads going, man, like that was hard. And we made it harder on ourselves. Do we even go back? But thank God we grabbed our cojones and said, we're going back. We need revenge. And the next year we didn't get anything, but we got a little closer. And the year after that, Dean and I both shot bucks, one on the first day, one on the last. And it was jubilation in the high country. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow, that's for sure. That was a tough pill to swallow. But it's those scenarios that make you better. It's those scenarios that wake you up, that prove that you don't know it all. You don't, yeah. I mean, just especially being in a new ground, new turf and whatever. Wow, that was insane. That was insane. One of the harder hardships of that one, and when Peter Griffin, a buck named Peter Griffin, was on camera as we were walking into the spot, and I knew it was going to happen because we had a rainfall coming in, and I was rushing us to get in there, and we didn't get in there in time. It rained, and right as it was done raining, we were going to get in our spot, and he was already there. Other than that time, that was probably the biggest kick in the nuts. I'm trying to think of any other North Dakota mishaps that we've had where we coulda, shoulda, woulda been on a bigger deer or been on a big deer and it didn't happen. The third year we both had those. We both got bucks. The fourth year was the Peter Griffin year. And I actually passed up Slough Bega as a 3-year-old that year on opening day. And then ended up shooting that mystery 8-point in October when we went back. The year after that, Dean shot Phil, and I shot the wrong buck in late season. The year after that was the first velvet buck we ever shot. Yeah, that was the velvet 10. And the year after that, Dean and I both shot velvet bucks. Yeah, baby. Yep. And then we had an off year. Then I got the 9. And then last year, Dean got Jack Daniels. Damn. What a time. What a time. And we're just 2 short months from going back. I cannot wait. I mean, I've been applying for stuff out in Montana. I've been applying for stuff out west because I want to incorporate that. I'm curious to grow as a bow hunter that way, but it will be very, very difficult to ever give up that opening season North Dakota hunt. It's just so serene. It's so surreal. You feel like you're out there with nobody else. And I think in the hunting world anymore, like it's tough to get that feeling. It's tough to truly get that feeling, to feel like you're not competing with anybody else on a buck, or you're not, you're not competing with anybody else. You're not, I don't know. It feels like you're out in front of everybody. It feels like you're out in front of the animals. It feels like you're out in front of the season. It feels like you're out in front of the other bow hunters. And, it can be hot that time of year. Definitely can be difficult that time of year, but also the bucks are on such a patternable pattern that you can really hone it. Like if you do your scouting, if you find the deer, you have a pretty good chance of being successful, especially if the weather pans out in your favor. So, I cannot wait. The crops are going to be better this year than I think that they ever have. And Dean's getting married on August 26th, literally 2 months from today. And then a couple days after that, I for sure am going to be taking off and getting up out of here. But Dean may have to spend a couple days with the wife, so he doesn't get divorced in the first couple days of his marriage. And then he'll come out and join me at some point of the trip. But, man, I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to come along with us. I'm just pumped. I'm pumped. You know what's funny? Talking about shooting and how much, like, I practice long distance and stuff like that, and a lot of it has to do with North Dakota. I'm trying to think. I don't know why this just popped in my head, but I'm trying to think of the farthest shot that I've taken in North Dakota. First buck I shot was probably 25 yards. That might have been the farthest one. The second buck I shot was about 6 yards. The third buck I shot was about 4 yards. The Velvet 10, the Velvet 10 was probably like 32. Then the next year was probably about 30, the other Velvet 10 that I shot. And then the 9 was... how far was he? He was probably like 25 yards too. So I do all this practicing, and I haven't even attempted a shot over 40 yards. Literally haven't attempted one. It's funny how that works. Big, open, vast country, and they end up right in your daggum lap. Pretty funny and pretty cool. But, nonetheless, getting ready. Season's around the corner. Hope y'all are having a fantastic Wednesday. Once again, I'm going to check Instagram right now because I sent out a little message. I wanted some people to ask some questions. Trying to figure out if anybody did ask some questions. What was the turning point that skyrocketed TNB into what it is today? That's a good question. I think the turning point was... I think North Dakota was a big turning point, but I think the turning point was when we realized that we could control our own destiny by putting more of like a video blog style format out there rather than like the TV cookie cutter format. I think that's what blasted us. And then, are you going to hunt Kansas this season? Yes, I am, and I am looking forward to it big time. Big time. Big time. Yep, going to be doing North Dakota, obviously here in Tennessee, probably hunt a little Kentucky, Ohio, New York, in Kansas. North Dakota, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, New York, Kansas. 6 states. 6 states to whitetail hunting this year. That's a dream come true as well. I won't lie. That is most definitely a dream come true. The opportunity to shoot 1 buck in North Dakota, 2 in Tennessee, so that's 3. 1 in Kentucky, that's 4. 1 in Ohio, that's 5. 2 in New York, that's 7. And 1 in Kansas, that's 8. So the opportunity to kill 8 bucks in one season is pretty spectacular. That won't happen. I shouldn't say that. I should not say that. But 3 would be sick. 4 would be sicker. So we'll see what we can do, but I'm looking forward to it all. Once again, you guys, I cannot thank y'all enough for sticking around and hanging out with us on this here Wednesday. Another solo episode with your boy. Dino will be back next week, and we will have more Food Plot Chronicles to talk about, along with who knows what, him getting married, what his season's going to be like. I don't know. But if you would, go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us right here on Spotify, and we appreciate y'all listening in every single week. We'll be back next week with some more goose chasing, baby. Peace.